Hello everybody and welcome back to Divulgando Ciencia. My name is Gustavo Herz-Huber. In this video I'm going to talk to you about HIV or the virus that causes AIDS. I'm going to tell you about the origin of this virus. How did it come and how did it propagate in humans? First of all, I would like to ask you to please give the video a like, share, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and follow me also on Facebook and Instagram. Please also stay until the end of the video so you can really understand what happened with this virus. Welcome to this new video. Transmission to humans. The majority of HIV researchers agree that HIV evolved at some point from the closely related simian immunodeficiency virus, SIV, and that SIV or HIV post-mutation was transferred from non-human primates to humans in the recent past as a type of zoonosis. HIV from chimpanzees and gorillas to humans. Scientists generally accept that the known strains of or groups of HIV are most closely related to the simian immunodeficiency viruses endemic in wild ape populations of West Central African forests. In particular, each of the known HIV strains is either closely related to the SIV that infects a chimpanzee subspecies, Pantroglodytes troglodytes, or closely related to the SIV that infects western lowland gorillas, gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Bushmeat practice. According to the natural transfer theory, also called hunter theory or bushmeat theory, in the simplest and most plausible explanation for the cross-species transmission of SIV or HIV post-mutation, the virus was transmitted from an ape or monkey to a human when a hunter or bushmeat vendor or handler was bitten or caught while hunting or butchering the animal. The resulting exposure to blood or other bodily fluids of the animal can result in SIV infection. Prior to the World War II, some sub-Saharan Africans were forced out of the rural areas because of the European demand for resources. Since rural Africans were not keen to pursue agricultural practices in the jungle, they turned to non-domesticated animals as their primary source of meat. This overexposure to bushmeat and malpractice of butchery increased blood-to-blood contact, which then increased the probability of transmission. Emergence. Genetic studies of the virus suggested in 2008 that the most recent common ancestor of the HIV group dates back to the Belgian Congo city of Leopoldville, modern Kinshasa, circa 1910. Proponents of this dating link the HIV epidemic with the emergence of colonialism and growth of large colonial African cities, leading to social changes, including a higher degree of non-monogamous sexual activity, the spread of prostitution, and the concomitant high frequency of genital ulcer diseases, such as syphilis, in nascent colonial cities. In 2014, a study conducted by scientists from the University of Oxford and the University of Leuven in Belgium revealed that because approximately 1 million people every year would flow through the prominent city of Kinshasa, which served as the origin of the first known HIV cases in the 1920s, passengers riding on the region's Belgian railway trains were able to spread the virus to larger areas. The study also identified a roaring sex trade, rapid population growth, and unsterilized needles used in health clinics as other factors which contributed to the emergence of the Africa HIV epidemic. Social changes and urbanization. The epidemic emergence of HIV most likely reflects changes in population structure and behavior in Africa during the 20th century and perhaps medical interventions that provided the opportunity for rapid human-to-human spread of the virus. After the scramble for Africa started in the 1880s, European colonial powers established cities, towns, and other colonial stations. A largely masculine labor force was hastily recruited to work in fluvial and seaports, railways, and other infrastructures and implantations. This disrupted traditional tribal values and favored casual sexual activity with an increased number of partners. In the nascent cities, women felt relatively liberated from rural tribal rules, and many remain unmarried or divorced during long periods, this being rare in African traditional societies. This was accompanied by unprecedented increase in people's movements. The growth of cities probably played a role in the epidemic emergence of HIV, since the phylogenetic dating of the two older strains of HIV suggests that these viruses started to spread soon after the main Central African colonies cities were founded. Colonialism in Africa. The colonial authorities also gave many vaccinations against smallpox, and injections, of which many would be made without sterilizing the equipment between uses. Both this parenteral risk and the prostitution associated with forced labor camps could have caused serial transmission or serial passage of HIV between humans. In addition, they proposed that the conditions of extreme stress associated with forced labor could depress the immune system of workers, therefore prolonging the primary acute infection period of someone newly infected by HIV, thus increasing the odds of both adaptation of the virus to humans and of further transmissions. Serial passage adaptation and unsterile needles. The concept of adaptation by serial passage or serial transmission says that an adventitious virus or other pathogen can increase its biological adaptation to a new host species if it is rapidly transmitted between hosts, while each host is still in the acute infection period. This process favors the accumulation of adaptive mutations more rapidly, therefore increasing the odds that a better adapted viral variant will appear in the host before the immune system suppresses the virus. Such better adapted variants could then survive in the human host for longer than the short acute infection period, in high numbers, high viral load, which would grant it more possibilities of epidemic spread. Experiments were reported of cross-species transfer of HIV in captive monkeys, in which the use of serial passage helped to adapt HIV to the new monkey species after passage by 3 or 4 animals. In agreement with this model is also the fact that, while HIV attains substantial viral loads in the human organism, adventitious HIV infecting humans seldom does so. People with HIV antibodies often have very low or even undetectable HIV viral load. This suggests that HIV is adapted to humans, and serial passage could have been the process responsible for it. It was then proposed that unsterile injections, which were likely very prevalent in Africa during both the colonial periods and afterwards, provided the mechanism of serial passage that permitted HIV to adapt to humans, therefore explaining why it emerged epidemically only in the 20th century. Genital ulcer diseases and evolution of sexual activity. It was proposed that HIV became epidemic through sexual serial transmission in nascent colonial cities held by a high frequency of genital ulcers caused by genital ulcer diseases. Genital ulcer diseases are simply sexually transmitted diseases that cause genital ulcers. Examples are syphilis, chancroid, lymphogranuloma venereum, and genital herpes. These diseases increase the probability of HIV transmission dramatically, from around 0.01 to 0.01% to 4 to 43% per heterosexual act, because the genital ulcers provide a portal of viral entry and contain many activated T cells expressing the CCR5 co-receptor, the main cell targets of HIV. Iatrogenic and other theories. Iatrogenic theories propose that medical interventions were responsible for HIV origins. By proposing factors that only appeared in Central and West Africa after the late 19th century, they seek to explain why all HIV groups also started after that. The theory centered on the role of parenteral risks, such as unsterile injections, transfusions, or smallpox vaccinations are accepted as plausible by most scientists on the field. Discredited HIV/AIDS origins theories include several iatrogenic theories, such as the polio vaccine hypothesis, which argues that the early polio vaccines were contaminated with a chimpanzee virus, leading to the Central African outbreak. As you could see on this video, HIV comes from chimpanzee and gorilla. There is no doubt about it. The question is, why did it propagate in humans approximately 100 years ago or less? Why not before? And the answer is in the colonialism, because this brought prostitution. With prostitution, you have two things. The virus is transmitting from person to person faster, and of course, the genital ulcers. This makes that the virus propagates much easier. The transmission is much easier in this case. And of course, as I mentioned, you have also the vaccination with needles that were not sterile. And this made altogether that HIV propagated during this time. If you like the video, please give it a like, share, subscribe to the channel, and follow me also on Facebook and Instagram. This would help me a lot. Thank you very much, and see you next time.